All right, I think we got it. Welcome to Utah Stories. So today on the program, we're talking again about the lack of housing and space for the homeless people in downtown. And with me on the program is Kseniya. I have the hardest time with your last name.
Kseniya.
Kseniya. And thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's really an honor.
Yeah, well, I find it so incredibly ridiculous that about a month and a half ago, I think it was about 6 weeks ago, State Homeless Coordinator Wayne Niederhauser, along with Mayor Mendenhall, had this really wonderful press conference. All the media showed up, and they announced we finally got it, the Sanctioned campground,
Yeah.
like the holy grail of taking care of the homeless who are shelter resistant, I guess you'd call them, who don't. If you don't know the shelter system in Utah, if you are a homeless couple, there's no shelter that takes man and woman both as couples. If you have a pet, there's no shelter that takes you and your pet. You can put your pet in some kind of kennel if you go to some shelters. But the Sanctioned campground was this great idea where the shelter resistant would have a place to go, and it was supposed to happen, but they could not find an operator. I've been trying to get the answer. Why couldn't they find an operator?
I think their expectations were much too high, honestly. And the camp was supposed to be up and running and housing people today.
By November 1st,
By
right?
November 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're nowhere near that.
We're
now.
nowhere near that, and it's very, very cold outside. And that's really the terrifying thing is there's been, the Ramada that folded, and that was supposed to house 400 people. And now the MVP shelter is probably not going to open until January. It was supposed to be opening in December. So it seems like, all of these great ideas, all these great ways to house people keep being pushed and pushed and pushed. And winter is here, and winter comes every year. And I really don't understand why all of our politicians aren't doing everything they can, working around the clock to make sure that there is spaces available for everybody that is unhoused.
Yeah, and the process of the Sanctioned camp was they have a request for proposal. Mm-hmm. They say, come on and apply. And then according to what I found from State Homeless Coordinator Niederhauser's office and then Wendy at the State Procurement Office, is that it's evaluated on a point system, first of all. And so you answer these questions and you acquire a certain number of points depending on your answer. Yeah. And so were you one of the applicants?
We were, yeah. As far as I know, there was only 2 of us and Unsheltered Utah. Yeah.
Do you know where in that application your points were just not high enough?
I'm not sure. I think, really we don't have the experience, but nobody in Utah has the experience doing something this novel. No one's done this before. And I think some of their expectations were too high. It's really difficult to turn around an RFP in just 2 weeks and have all the pieces lined up where you have a contractor to deliver water, you have a contractor to do gray water disposal and trash pickup, and all of these tiny details that need to be figured out very, very quickly without a lot of information about what the parameters are. And
so you have to show basically, I have a contractor to do porta potties. I have a contractor for water.
Well, you have to provide a budget, and so you have to have all of this delineated of, within $500,000, how will you make this happen and run it for 6 months? And we put together a budget, and then it was vastly over budget, and we had to move money around and cut resources and say, okay, we can get this, donated in kind. But, one thing that we insisted on keeping was case management, because in conversations we've been talking to, the state, the city, the county, all of the stakeholders for years about how to get this Sanctioned campground up and going. We brought dozens of chronically unsheltered individuals to come speak to the city council far before it was ever on anyone's radar. And 2.5 years ago, everyone was just telling us to stop talking about it. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're really proud that we pushed the envelope and kept the conversation going to make this a feasible, or an option that is considered.
Yeah, it should be happening.
It should be happening.
We've got some comments that MJ wants to read real quick.
Of course.
So Casey Bug says, so many plans to help these people, but nothing actually gets done, and there's so many overpasses for these people to attempt safer tenting before they get removed from those two.
Yeah, so many plans to get these things done, so many people, but so many people to get people removed from out of the areas they're not supposed to be in. Yeah. But where are the people that help put them where they should be? It's just, that's a great point. It's like you can't have it. I think the police and the mayor's office, they think they can somehow have it both ways. Yeah. You can constantly be moving people, and they can figure out where they're supposed to go. Yeah. And the only thing I can think of is they don't want them here. Yeah. And that's the only message they want to communicate with their actions. Yeah. With their words, they're saying, yes, we want our homeless brothers and sisters. We want to help you. But with their actions, what they're saying is, get the hell out of here. Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Where are you? But where are you supposed to go?
Exactly.
Like, unless you're going to give one-way bus tickets to other cities that have homeless resources, where are they?
And in
supposed to
essence, what Mendenhall is doing by pushing people further and further away from the resources, from St. Vincent's only soup kitchen, from the only bathroom for the unsheltered, from the only day resource center, the weekend, and erecting fencing around the islands where people have long lived, and she's pushing them to other cities. Sandy is having a vastly growing contingent of people being camped at Dimpledale. We're just scapegoating the problem to other cities. And
do you think that it has something to do with they tore down that downtown shelter? Mm-hmm. That's gone. That was 1,000 beds. Yeah. And now there's this really beautiful, luxury high-rise apartment. Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. And right across the street are all the homeless services. Yeah. Of course, that developer, Hamilton Partners, I've asked them a few questions. Yeah. They don't want them there. They want to rent those units for top dollar. Yeah. So why in the world would they put up with the homeless? I just don't get it. Why wouldn't they move all those resources somewhere else yesterday? Yeah. Like, if you don't want them there, then why don't you move those resources where they can be? Yeah.
And get all the resources that they need. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you noticed, but Big D Construction has bought a lot of the parcels right around the islands and that area, and have erected fencing.
They're just trying to fence out off every little place they could possibly go.
And of course, the land there is cheaper because it is our version of Skid Row, and Gateway was able to capitalize on that. And, they move in right in our homeless district, and yet expect things to magically disappear and find elsewhere when we know that the shelters are full. They're chronically full. We know that the overflow shelters even, are always have to turn people away. We know that the movie night had to turn people away, and when we worked the first 3 days, inaugural days of movie night, we had to turn people away.
Yeah, you were part of that movie night.
We were, yeah.
We pointed you guys out along with Wendy, how that was such an incredible organic movement that you guys all came together, four or five nonprofits and a church, to just do what the city and the state and the county had gotten millions of dollars to do, but weren't doing, provide shelter for the homeless. You guys all got together and said, what can we do to save people's lives? There's people freezing to death on the street. And the city, county, state, despite millions of dollars, they're just not providing any shelter. And you bought a bus.
We bought a bus.
And
yes,
you had
the blue bus.
People on the bus staying warm. Yeah. And it was a really cool organic movement to see that happen.
It was. And the day that we bought the bus, Unsheltered Utah did a big warming tent, and that was also the night that, we put so much pressure on our institutions that the county opened the very first Code Blue overflow shelter, because it was going to be 4 degrees that night. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
The Code Blue.
The Code Blue. And so
they couldn't expect that to happen.
I know.
You're not providing anywhere near enough beds.
I know.
And it's just like we pointed out in another article, there's so much empty so many empty buildings all over, and a lot of it's owned by the RDA.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you do an emergency provision to say, we're going to open up this empty former public safety building right next to the Magnolia, and let people stay warm in there. You just go in there and stay warm so you don't freeze to death. They just won't do it. So, yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Well, I commend you for what you're doing.
You.
We're going to take a little break.
Okay.
When we get back, this has been getting international coverage. The Daily Mail and the New York Times, just like all over the place. Story has gone on about your homeless calendar. So when we get back, we're going to talk about that.
Thank you, Richard.
So.